On from the Rams to another NFC West team, the San Francisco 49ers have traded wide receiver Deebo Samuel to the Commanders for a fifth round pick, as well as the Commanders picking up a good amount of his salary. So obviously, you remember Deebo Samuel a few years ago really made a name for himself. He had a 1,400-yard receiving year. He proved to be incredibly valuable as both like a running back and wide receiver. He had a big, I don't know if kerfuffle is the right word, but he had a standoff with the 49ers in order to get a new contract. He was holding out. He ultimately did get that new contract. And ever since then, he has not been the player he was before due to injuries and, I'm sure a flurry of other things. He changed his number from 19 to 1. Does that matter? Probably not. But, I think, it's kind of like Deebo Samuel when he's wearing 19. Pretty great. Deebo Samuel when he's wearing number 1. Fairly forgettable. So I think this was, a move that the 49ers made just to get a player who perhaps is declining, or at least is declining within their system, off to another team and get a lot of his contract off the books, because they probably, with the emergence of Brandon Ayuk, were like, listen, Deebo Samuel is not the player that he once was. We're not necessarily in a position to pay all these players. You got Brock Purdy's up for a new contract. Brandon Ayuk just signed one. Christian McCaffrey signed a big one. Joey Bosa, or Nick Bosa, whichever Bosa is on the 49ers. And, they're just like a team with a lot of talent, and they need to save some money somewhere. And getting rid of Deebo Samuel is the place that they deemed the most reasonable to save money. And I think that's probably right, given his performance the last couple of years. It was obviously a surprise due to like his name, especially for, people who probably, know him only by name and reputation and the highlights that they've seen, and assumed he was producing at a similar level that he was when he was getting those highlights that they've seen, which is, as we know, not the case. He's really declined over the last couple of years, but seeing him get traded for a fifth was still somewhat surprising, and shows how the wide receiver market really peaked with the Tyreek Hill trade, right? That was, multiple first round picks, second round picks. And ever since then, there's been a real regression in what teams are willing to give up. Amari Cooper's like a fifth round pick. Devontae Adams is a fifth round pick, fourth round pick, whatever. Mid rounds, let's call him that. And now Deebo Samuel again, mid round pick for the Commanders. I think for the Commanders, from their side of things, this is an extremely interesting trade, right? They had a fairly dynamic offense last year. He won't have to be the number 1 receiver with Terry McLaurin, my apologies, being the number 1 receiver in Washington. Brian Robinson Jr., like him, inspirational story. He got shot and came back and played, pretty well, but he isn't the best running back in the league. Maybe they can find another running back in the draft, and then there'll be an offense that could potentially really make some noise. I mean, they're the NFC Championship game this year. Cliff Kingsbury is an excellent offensive coordinator, and we'll probably find some unique ways to use Deebo Samuel in his offense for this. And Jane Daniels, of course, probably the best rookie last season, certainly making it to the NFC Championship game gives him a little bit more clout there. And so I'm very interested to see if this will pay off. Will Deebo Samuel return to form, or is it kind of over for him? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments.